Hello and welcome. In this video, you will be shown how to use the Oklahoma DEQ GIS Data Viewer for determining if your OKR10 is required to submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan, as well as other useful tips for filling out your Notice of Intent. This video is presented by the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, Municipal Discharge and Stormwater Section. If you are new to using the data viewer, I recommend watching this video in its entirety. We will go through some basic beginner knowledge before learning how to use the data viewer to determine if you need to submit a SWP. If you are already familiar with the data viewer or need a refresher on a particular topic, you may use the timestamps in the description box below to jump ahead. The topics that will be covered are listed in order on screen. Before we begin using the data viewer, let's go over the terminology. GIS stands for Geographic Information System. That is the map we will be using today. OKR10 refers to the OKR10 general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities within the state of Oklahoma. Since the OKR10 is a general permit, the covered facility will be issued an authorization allowing for coverage under the general permit. NOI stands for the Notice of Intent, or DEQ Application Form 606-002A, requesting for coverage under the OKR10 General Permit. SWP3 is the abbreviation for Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, or pronounced SWP. It is a custom-tailored document by the applicant to help their specific project site minimize on-site pollutants and reduce stormwater runoff. For those that need help creating a SWP, the Oklahoma DEQ offers a construction SWP template online at deq.ok.gov Water Quality Division Stormwater link. Applicants may choose to use any or part of the template or can make their own to meet permit requirements. When submitting an NOI for an OKR10 authorization, a copy of the SWP must be included with the NOI if the project site is located within an aquatic resource of concern, located within an outstanding resource water, is disturbing 40 acres or more, is 5 acres or more, and located within the Lake Thunderbird TMDL watershed. We will now use the data viewer to determine if your project site falls within any of the previously mentioned categories. Let's begin by navigating to the data viewer through the DEQ website. Go to deq.ok.gov. At the top of the screen, locate Divisions. Locate Water Quality Division. Click on Wastewater and Stormwater. Underneath Permitting, click on Stormwater Permitting. On the Stormwater Permitting website, scroll down to locate the desired stormwater permit. The first image is OKR10 Construction Stormwater. Click on the image. You are now on the Construction Stormwater website. On this page, you can find additional information for your stormwater needs. To the right of the page, you can find the OKR10 General Permit for Construction Stormwater. Underneath Forms, you can locate Construction Stormwater Notice of Intent. To the left of the page, if you expand Useful Links, you can find the Data Viewer. Click on the link. Once you have navigated to the Data Viewer website, click OK to accept the terms and conditions of the site the viewer will load. We will begin by navigating to the project location. Look for the blue toolbar. When you've located the toolbar, click on the icon of the magnifying glass hovering over the earth. Under the black location label, select the first gray XY tab. If you know the decimal degree of the project, you can enter them into the latitude and longitude box. Remember to enter negative in front of the longitude for any projects located within North America. You can also select the gray Search by Degree, Minute, Second box, if that is the form in which you have your project coordinates. If you would like to search for multiple coordinates and have them remain on the screen at the same time, click the Preserve Previous Point box. If you do not know your project coordinates, you can search for the location by address. Under the black location label, select the second gray box labeled Address Search. Enter the full and complete address for the project site and select Search. The viewer will locate the coordinates or address and put a blue dot on the screen to represent the location. You can use the plus/minus sign at the top right of the screen to zoom in for a closer look at your location. When zooming in, if the map disappears, it means you have zoomed in too close and you need to back out a step until the map reappears. Click the minus sign to do this. If you have located your site by address, the map will automatically convert the address into latitude and longitude degree format. Hover your mouse over the blue dot and while keeping it there, look to the bottom left of the screen for the black latitude and longitude degree boxes. The coordinates will auto-adjust to wherever your mouse is hovering. We will next change the base map or background map of the viewer to give a better look at the project site. Go back to the blue toolbar. Click on the icon that looks like a stack of white paper. Click on the second tab that is labeled Base Map. Click the base map that suits you best. If you would like a real-world view of the project site, click on Bing Hybrid Map. Keep zooming in until you can clearly see your project site. Keep in mind that this is not a live recording, so any active construction may not be present. Now that you have located the project site and applied the base map, you need to identify the water bodies around the project site. Your screen should still be open to the Layers page. If not, click on the stack of white paper icon again. Under the Layer label, select the first gray tab, also called Layers. Under the Operational Layers label, you should see a list of available data options. We will focus on the water data. To the left of the water data label, you will see a small box and an arrow. Check the box and select the arrow. A menu will drop down with additional available data. Scroll down and unclick all the boxes under water data so you can start with a clean map. To locate the receiving water body around your project site, first make sure you have located your project site and that the screen is zoomed in. You should see the blue dot on the screen. Scroll down the water data screen until you see the box labeled IR Waterbodies. IR stands for Integrated Report. The Integrated Report is the inventory of water bodies within the state as well as the list of impaired water bodies. There should be a year in front of the IR water body label. The Integrated Report is published every 2 years. Find the latest year and check the box next to the label. We will be checking the 2018 IR water body box. All of the water bodies within Oklahoma, including lakes and rivers, should have appeared on the map. They may appear as red, orange, or green lines. If no lines appeared, try zooming out a level by selecting the minus sign to the right of the screen. If this did not help, make sure the box next to IR water bodies is checked, as well as the box next to water data. If there are multiple water bodies around your project site, it may not be obvious to which water body your project site stormwater runoff will drain. There are 2 options you can try to help determine which water body your project site stormwater runoff will drain. The first option is by turning on the watershed boundary. A watershed boundary is defined by the highest elevations surrounding a lake or river segment. You can think of it as a bowl. All water that falls within that segment will drain to the lowest common point. If multiple rivers are located near your project site, turning on the watershed boundary may help narrow down to which water body your site will drain. On the data screen to the left, locate the watershed boundary HU12 data label. Select the box. A series of red boundary shapes should have appeared on the screen. This is the watershed boundary. If you are unable to distinguish between the water body line and the watershed boundary line, scroll down and deselect the 2018 IR water body box. Locate your project site and become familiar with the watershed boundary that surrounds it. Once you have become familiar with this boundary, reselect the 2018 IR Waterbody box. You can now clearly see what waterbody is located within your watershed boundary. This is the waterbody to which your project site will drain. If it is still unclear to which waterbody your project site will drain, or if you'd like to determine which direction your stream segment will flow, you can use the topographic map to decide. Go to the second grade tab labeled Base Maps. Scroll down to the USA topographic map. The topographic map with elevations should have appeared. You will need to zoom into your project site. Note the elevation next to your project site as well as the elevation next to the closest receiving water body. The elevation here is 1,160. You will need to trace the stream segment in either direction, noting the elevation. I've made a mark here for simplicity. The elevation to the left of our project site is 1,210, meaning it is higher than the stream segment on the right. Water always flows from highest to lowest elevation. So in our situation, this stream segment flows from west to east. You can use the same method, noting the elevation, to determine which direction your project site runoff will flow if there are multiple water bodies near your project site within your watershed boundary. Once you are done using the elevation, return to the Being Hybrid map. Return to the first gray Layers tab. If you are done using your watershed boundary, scroll up and deselect the watershed boundary HU12 data label. Now that you have identified the receiving water body, you can determine its name and identification number. On the map screen, click on the line that represents the water body. A screen will open with information about the water body. The first row shows the water body identification number, or WBID number. The second row shows the common name for the water body. Both of these identifications should be written under Receiving Water Body on your NOI as well as your SWP if a SWP is required. As you scroll down within the pop-up box, the designated beneficial uses, according to the Oklahoma Water Quality Standards Appendix A, are listed. When reading the chart, any letter in the column next to the beneficial uses means it is applied to that water body. For a list of what the various letters stand for, refer to the 305B Water Body Assessment List within the Integrated Report at the Oklahoma DEQ website under Water Quality Division Watershed Planning link. The next step is to check if the receiving water body has any impairments according to the Impaired Water Body 303D list of the Integrated Report. Close the identification box and note where the receiving water body is located. On the data screen to the left, uncheck the box next to the 2018 IR water bodies and check the box next to the 2018 303D water bodies, or the most current year listed at the time. If the line representing the water body disappears and does not reappear, the water body is not impaired. If the line disappears and does reappear, the water body is impaired. If the line does reappear, click on the line to open the additional information box. Possible water body impairments are listed as you scroll down inside of the pop-up box. The water body is impaired for a specific type of impairment if any combination of letters or numbers are listed next to the impairments. A water body can be impaired for multiple types of impairments. In this situation, it is impaired for DO and enterococcus. For a list of what the various number and letter combinations stand for, refer to Appendix C Impaired Water Bodies 303D list of the Integrated Report at the Oklahoma DEQ website under Water Quality Division Watershed Planning link. If there is a TMDL for the impaired receiving water body, the TMDL ID number will be listed next to the water body on the 303D list of impaired water bodies. Refer to the permit for any additional requirements regarding impaired receiving water bodies. Now that you are knowledgeable about your general site information, it is time to determine if your project must complete and submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan with the project's notice of intent to DEQ. As a reminder, the project must complete and submit a SWP if it is located within an aquatic resource of concern, located within an outstanding resource water, is disturbing 40 acres or more, is 5 or more acres, and located within the Lake Thunderbird TMDL watershed. We will now determine if your project site lies within an aquatic resource of concern. Close the additional 303D data box. Return to the layer menu on the left-hand side and uncheck the 303D waterbody box. Scroll to the top of the water data menu and select the OKR10 Stormwater ARC 2012 box. Make sure that the water data box is still checked. A large portion of your screen should have turned blue. If you do not see blue on your screen, zoom out to be certain that your site is not located within the blue section. The blue section is the aquatic resource of concern. These are water bodies that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation consider to be sensitive because they harbor populations of federal or state-listed endangered and threatened species as well as their critical habitat. If any portion of your project site lies within one of these areas, or if your project site is 1 mile or closer to the edge of the ARC area, you will need to develop and submit a SWP to DEQ, as well as follow any additional requirements within the permit. In our situation, our project site is far enough away that it is not considered located within the ARC. You will now be shown how to use the Advanced Draw tool on the Data Viewer to verify that your project site is further than 1 mile from the ARC. On the blue toolbar at the top, select the 3 horizontal lines with the small arrow icon. Select Advanced Draw. Select the freehand polyline. Scroll down until you find the Show Measurements option. Select the box next to Show Measurements. If necessary, change the units to miles by selecting the blue box and selecting miles. A white box will appear next to your cursor with instructions on how to initiate the tool. While holding your cursor over your project site, click down on your mouse. Draw a line from your project site to the ARC. Let go of the mouse when you've reached the ARC. The mileage will appear on the screen of the distance from the ARC to your project site. This site is 11.8 miles away. If necessary, zoom your screen in until you can more easily see this number. If it's still difficult for you to make out the number, go back to the Base Map tab and select a map with a lighter background. You can also use this tool once you have turned on the IR water bodies to measure the distance from your project site to your receiving water body. When you are done measuring, scroll down, and if you would like a clean screen, select Clear. This will clean the measurements off the screen, and once again you'll have an empty map. When filling out your notice of intent, you will be asked for the acreage of the site. If the acreage is unknown, you can use the Advanced Draw to determine it. To measure an area such as acres, click on the freehand polygon icon. Ensure that your map is zoomed in enough that you can clearly see the perimeter of the project site. Scroll down to the Show Measurements option. Select the box. Next to Area Units, hit the blue drop-down box and select Acres. Again, a white box will appear next to your cursor with directions on how to initiate the tool. At the perimeter of your project site, click the mouse. Trace the project site with your mouse while holding it down. When you have completed tracing your project perimeter, let go of the mouse. The acreage of the site will show up in the area that you have just traced. This project site is 3.3 acres. If you make a mistake during the trace, click the blue Clear button at the bottom of the screen and select the polygon line again and retrace your project perimeter. If your project site is disturbing 40 acres or more, you will need to develop and submit a SWP to DEQ, as well as follow any additional requirements. Now that you are familiar with the acreage of your site, we will determine if your project site lies within the Lake Thunderbird watershed. On the Advanced Draw toolbar, select Clear at the bottom to start with a clean map. At the top on the blue toolbar, select the Layers icon. Under the First Grade Layers tab, again return to the Water Data option, make sure that the box is checked. Uncheck the OKR10 Stormwater ARC if necessary. Scroll down until you find the Lake Thunderbird Watershed option. Select the box. A portion of the map below Oklahoma City should turn green. This is the Lake Thunderbird Watershed, which has completed a TMDL, or Total Maximum Daily Load. A TMDL is the process of establishing the sources of impairments in a given water body, determining the amount of reduction necessary to meet the water quality standards in that water body, and allocating allowable waste loads to the various contributors of pollution. If your project site lies within this area and is 5 acres or more, you will need to develop and submit a SWP to DEQ, as well as follow any additional requirements within the permit. You can find additional information about the Lake Thunderbird TMDL, as well as other TMDLs on the DEQ website under Watershed Planning Division TMDL Program, Lake Thunderbird TMDL Project link. Our project site is not located within the Lake Thunderbird TMDL. ORW stands for Outstanding Resource Water as defined in Title 785, Chapter 45 of the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. An ORW is a water of the state that has exceptional recreational and/or ecological significance. No degradation of water quality shall be allowed in these waters. The DEQ GIS Data Viewer does not have an option to specifically select the ORW areas. However, at the present time, all of the ORWs within Oklahoma lie within the stormwater ARC zones previously discussed. You may use the OKR10 Stormwater ARC 2012 option on the data viewer in place of the ORW. If you would like to verify whether your project site does truly lie within an ORW zone, navigate to the owrb.ok.gov website. Select Water Quality Standards on the left of the screen. Select Chapter 45 on the right of the screen. Search for your project's receiving water body by selecting the Control and F key on your keyboard at the same time. Enter your project's receiving water body. Leave off the OK at the beginning. You should see your receiving water body in Appendix A1 of Chapter 45, Oklahoma's Water Quality Standards. Once you have located your water body on the list, look for the limitation column to the far right of the screen. If there is an ORW under limitations for your receiving water body, then your project site drains to an ORW. You will need to develop and submit a SWP to DEQ, as well as follow any additional requirements within the permit. In our situation, our stream does not drain to an ORW. I hope you found this video useful. If you need help using the Data Viewer tool or have additional questions regarding the Stormwater program, please contact the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality at 405-702-8100. You may also email Water Quality Permitting, request Stormwater Technical Assistance, request training or outreach on our website at deq.ok.gov under Water Quality Division Stormwater.